Good evening. Welcome to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Church. We're grateful that each of you are here. You'll find in your hands an order of service that has the hymns. If it's a 10 number, it's in the TO hymnal. If it's any of the other numbers, it's in the dark gray hymnal. We invite you to sing with us. We're grateful for everyone who is here in person and on Zoom to honor the life of Sally Blanchard. Carl Sandburg writes, "Under the harvest moon, when the soft silver drips shimmering over the garden nights, death, the gray mocker, comes and whispers to you as a beautiful friend who remembers. Tonight, we gather with beautiful friends to remember, to hold each other close, and to do the work of love." Mira Mikowitz writes, "We light this chalice, which transforms into pure light and warmth, to remind us of our own living, transforming the stuff of this world into love and activity of our daily lives. As we remember Sally, may today bring forth transformation in ourselves. From grief to healing, from memory, wholeness, and from celebration, love." In getting to know a tiny bit about Sally through her friends, I learned this beautiful story, which stands out in my mind. It's about a time Sally needed to calm herself down, a time she needed to be grounded and present. And amidst the big feelings of the moment, a gray-horned owl happened to sweep by and land near her. That was just the energy she needed. There was something about that owl's energy, Sally said, that helped to bring her own down. There was a quiet from the bird
Well, you
which
said you
brought a
wanted to
sense
go
of
to
peace in
Publix,
her heart.
but
I invite us
No.
into a space of meditation,
get milk out
and I
of
invite you to find that
That's
same
about
sense of
cheaper.
quiet
and
and a
since it's
calm
November
energy,
1st, the food
beginning with
coupons
3
kick in.
breaths together.
So it won't cost us
When
nothing.
you're ready, take a big breath
And we
in
can return the refrigerator. I'm gonna need
and
him to
let it
get
go.
them out of the car.
Another big breath in and let it go. One more big breath in. Let it go. I invite your eyes to be closed or to look down, whatever is comfortable for you. I invite you over so many memories. And I invite you to just land on one for tonight. Just land on one moment together. I invite you to be present with that memory for just a moment. When you're ready, I invite you to let a smile come across your face. To just seal that memory back up, knowing it's there whenever you need it, waiting for you. Let's land with a big breath in and let it go. When you're ready, we'll arrive back here in this space. A nobleman from the area of Siena sent a pheasant to Francis of Assisi when he was sick. Francis received it gladly, not with a desire to eat it, but because it was his custom to rejoice in such creatures. He said to the pheasant, "Sister Pheasant, I'm glad you are here." And Francis's brothers said, "Let us make a test and see if Sister Pheasant really wants to be here, or if she'd rather go back to her usual places, which are more fit for her." And so at Francis's command, a brother carried the pheasant away, put her in a vineyard far away. And immediately the pheasant returned at a brisk pace to Francis's cell. Francis ordered it to be carried out again, even further away, but with great stubbornness, it returned to the door of his cell, forcing its way in under the tunics of the brothers in the doorway. And so Francis commanded it should be lovingly cared for, caressing and stroking it with gentle words. A doctor who was very devoted to Francis asked the brothers to give it to him, not because he wanted to eat it, but because he worried Francis would just get tired of this bird. The doctor took it with him, but when separated from Francis, it seemed hurt. And while away from his presence, he refused to eat entirely. The doctor was amazed and at once carried the pheasant back to Francis, telling him in order all that had happened. As soon as it was placed on the ground, the bird saw its friend, it threw off its sadness and ate with joy. This ancient story about Francis of Assisi reminds me of the many ways that birds and other animals understand us as humans in deeper and more intimate ways than we may even understand ourselves. This story reminds me of my own deep and inextricable love intertwined between my cats and myself. It reminds me of the work of love that shows up in unexpected places. It reminds me of Sally's gifts of care and communication with birds and other creatures throughout her life. Perhaps her creatures were the only ones who truly understood Sally. Perhaps we don't have the depth or breadth of perception to unpack all of who she was. Perhaps her love of stories and her enthusiastic laughter and her intricate sculptures and her brilliant care for birds around the world are what we will hold on to from her one wild and precious life. And in the end, isn't that fantastic? It is. Sally Blanchard was amazing in her own right. I heard it time and again. She was incredible on her own terms. And although that could be isolating for other people and for Sally, here we are. Here we are sitting together to honor this woman in all of her complexity. Here we are sitting together to hold each other and to be held in our grief. Our grief together is a blessing, a reminder of what it means to be alive and to honor this life with dignity and respect. To honor our memories with Sally is a blessing. It's a blessing to remember and hold close the snapshots of Sally playing with neighbor girls in the trailer park, a kid at heart her whole life. It's a blessing to imagine Sally's animal taking over the whole bed to sleep, leaving little room for her at the end of the day. It's a blessing to replay hours and hours of conversation on the phone or over Japanese food. Each of our memories are blessings which live in us for years to come. And the memories of the creatures she touched will live in their own worlds for years to come. Parrots, it turns out, have particularly powerful memories. With brains wired much like humans, parrots remember faces and words and people for decades. I wonder about the ways in which the birds and creatures that Sally loved knew her in deeper and more intimate ways than she may have even known herself. I love thinking about the birds Sally supported along with their caretakers, remembering this woman, holding this image, this moment, this attribute of her life for years to come. What a blessing to be remembered, not only by people, but by a plethora of creatures. In looking more closely at the life of Francis of Assisi, preparing for this service, I discovered he had quite a deep relationship with birds. And I came across this poem by Seamus Heaney, which I've adapted from Francis to Sally. I hope that its words intertwine with your memories, inspiring them to take flight. When Sally spoke love to the birds, they listened, fluttered, throttled up into the blue like a flock of words released for fun from her lips. Then wheeled back, word around her head, pirouetted across the world, danced on the wing for sheer joy, played and sang like images, took flight, which was the best sculpture Sally ever made. Her care true, her tone light. May it be so. Now is the time in our service where it would be a blessing for you to share a memory with us. It would be a blessing for you to speak to Sally, to speak to us, and for us to hold you in that tender moment. And so if anyone has something they're willing to share, I invite them to stand.
John Catchpole, editor of Parrot magazine, wrote an obituary for Sally. He published it in the November 2020 second issue of Parrots magazine. One of the most respected behavioral specialists in the parrot community has passed away at the age of 78. Everyone at Parrots magazine was shocked to hear that Sally Blanchard is no longer with us. Sally has helped many others with their behavioral problems and has written many articles for Parrots magazine. One of the most notable behavior specialists, Sally was well known for her regular publication, The Pet Bird Report, spanning over 20 years, containing many articles on behavior that are still very much valid today. Sally was extremely popular when speaking at conventions in the United States with her much-loved black-headed Kaik, Spiky Lebec. He loved to show off and would show delegates his fascinating acrobatic performances. Sally had lived in Loveland, Colorado, USA for many years and had also spent time when attending the American School in London. When she came to speak at our 2014 Think Parrots show, she was pleased to be back in the UK, which she said held great memories. Her popularity was evident when her talk topped the highest number of attendees. Sally was also an accomplished artist and was well known for the various sculptures she produced, some of which have been featured in Parrots magazine. Sally had suffered a number of health issues in her last few years, although her cause of death has not been published. Her passing is a great blow for the whole global parrot community, and our condolences go to Sally's family. And I'm sure he also means her friends as well.
Thank you. Let's respond just with the heartbeat. Just feeling that here.
Gary and I went up this morning to spread her ashes. We had a permit from Rocky Mountain National Park. We did that so we wouldn't be in trouble. The place I chose was the Aspen Grove that's just above Bierstead trailhead there. That grove there's a lot of different groves in the park that I love and that I took Sally up to at different times. She never did get to go to that one, but she loved being in the aspen groves with the trees. This one I chose because not only was it away from anywhere that anyone would walk by, the trees there are just enormous. They're just so tall. And there's just as many trees standing there as there are on the ground. So it's midlife kind of thing. It's life and it's passing. So we felt it was a good place for her to be and enjoyed it. And as soon as we finished spreading the ashes, some birds started to sing. And another reason we chose that place is when I go there to paint a lot. The birds just sing all the time there. And there's a warbling vireo we always hear too, which Sally thought was a great bird. So, oh, and I forgot to mention on our way up, we went up very early. And first we saw a lot of bucks on the side of the road. And then the car got stopped by 5 turkeys that decided to let us go finally. And then we went on a little further and there were 2 beautiful bull elks on this side of the hill and one on the other side watching us go by. And then we went a little further and a moose and her calf ran by. So we just felt like, okay, Sally, the animals know you're coming. And we knew it was the right place and the right time to have her be there.
Thank you. No, I was like, right.
I've been trying to remember how Sally and I became friends. I know it started at church here sometime, but we just started talking and it seemed like you could never stop talking. And so once a month, at least once a month, we'd meet for lunch somewhere, a new restaurant, a new cuisine, or different dishes at the ones we went to. And we never ran out of things to say. Often the lunches lasted 2 hours and continued then in the parking lot. And so I don't know why she was talking to me, but I know why I chose her as a friend. I mean, I had never known such a risk taker. She just had daring do and optimism. And I know she had a lot of challenges in her life, but she really didn't want to talk about those generally. But I was fascinated by how she lived her life. And so we had a lot of things we could talk about. Sally could talk about just about anything because she knew so much about so many things. But one of the things we certainly agreed on is that we loved birds. And for me, that was birds in the wild. And I think she had a lot of insights, well, I know she did, into bird behavior that we could sometimes apply to those wild birds. And that was just really exciting to me. One of our discussions was about what bird do you particularly like? And at the time, my favorite was an avocet. It's a beautiful bird. It's slender, but it stands on little stalky legs. They're just so skinny and all. And you think this can't really be working very well. They're beautiful birds. And I love the word avocet. I mean, isn't that a great word? And so the next time we got together for lunch, Sally brought a box with her and she was kind of giggling about it, like she did and stuff. And I thought, what's going on now? Because you never know what kind of surprise she was going to have. So here's what she gave me. And this is the avocet that she made for me. And you could see those spindly little legs, holding up that body. And when she told me about how hard it was to make it and make this, she sculpted the body and then put it on those legs and how difficult it was to get it all balanced, which made me appreciate the real avocets even more. So I really treasure it. And I miss Sally. I don't remember why we kind of stopped the lunches. I think we both had big disruptions in our lives and it just didn't work out anymore. But I will always treasure this thing.
If I cry, I'm sorry. I met Sally originally at one of her conferences and we just connected. And I got, she invited me to be a speaker at several of her conferences after that. And we became really good long-term friends. After she moved to Loveland, we did a lot of things together. Her art just kept blossoming in different forms. One of the things that I treasure about her is her brilliance and her insight into all things bird. Didn't matter if it's a wild bird or even like a duck or, I mean, not a singing bird, but a honking bird or a parrot. After she passed, I have a tremendous amount of her books, and whenever someone buys a parrot from me, they get a book. part of the deal. And it has helped so many people, her knowledge and wisdom. And anyway, after she passed, there was a big struggle to get her bird Paco out of the Humane Society, who they know nothing about birds. And finally, it happened. And I had Paco for a while, several months. And Paco, initially, she missed Sally so much. She was so traumatized by being in the Humane Society that, and Paco was an Amazon, by the way. And she, when I first got her, she went up on her perch in the back as far away as from everybody as she could get. And she just was a statue. She just wanted the world to go away. It was really bad. And slowly, she started acting interested in things again. And she was around other birds, and so I'm sure they helped. Birds are very healing. And eventually she came down and she started dancing and singing and being her usual precious self. And last week, I had the privilege of taking her to the person who she wanted her to go to. And that person is lovely. She's in Williamsburg, Virginia. And she's a lovely person. And Sally would be very happy that Paco is there. And so there's some closure.
Alice, is there anyone on Zoom? Take a big breath in, honoring those stories and those memories, and let it go. Spirit of life, thank you for the gift of Sally Blanchard. Thank you for the gifts that she gave to the world, for the gifts of the Pet Bird Report, for the gift of the beauty of aspens, for the gift of places of passing and the songs of birds. We are grateful for the surprises of nature and the deep knowing of animals. We're grateful for conversations that may never stop. We're grateful for the magic of risk-taking, for the gift of insights, for the joy of avocets, real and in our hands. We are grateful for giggles and surprises, for conferences and connections, for brilliance and insight. We're grateful for the gifts of knowledge that will continue for many generations to come. We're grateful for the gift of Paco in grief and in resiliency and in finding a new home. May love guide us through this hard night. Gulliver writes, "Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads me back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go."